Hi, this is Not Inquisitor. This is a video response to Jeremiah McDonnell. He was asking me in the comment of my of one of his video about cinematic game and stuff like that. And he was asking me, in my opinion, what separates a cinematic game from a non-cinematic game. And I thought I would give you an example of what it means to me by comparing two books using the same game system. And of course this definition will varies from a person to a person, but I'll try to give insight from my perspective. First of all, I am a comic book fan, so I have a tendency to play role-playing games in a cinematic fashion. But I also like realism in superhero. For a long time I was a Marvel fan before a DC fan, because Marvel has have this approach to comic books, a more realistic approach. In those days, Stan Lee and earlier creators just got inspired by the surroundings. They were in New York, so every superhero's stories in the Marvel universe was happening in New York. So they could they drew the streets of New York. They had battles in well-known places. While in the DC universe, you have this made-up universe. You have cities like Gotham City or Metropolis or Emerald City, Central City, Keystone City. You even have countries that don't exist in the DC universe. So for a long time I was a Marvel fan, and when I began to play superhero games, I was trying to emulate that. So reality was important in my games. And yeah, so back to the cinematic versus non-cinematic or more realistic. I think those two books here illustrate somewhat the extreme of a spectrum. Here you have they are both Mutants and Mastermind product, but they're very different in their approach. This book is of course the DC Adventures role-playing games. In that game you play in the DC universe, or you play at the level of these superheroes that everyone enjoys. So it's very cinematic. Superman can punch somebody into orbit and then orbit back the Earth to punch him again from the other side, and you have all these crazy physics going on, and it's very much four color as a style. There is a lot of stuff going on in the DC universe that don't make sense. The Green Lantern ring, for example, the most ultimate powerful weapon in the universe that need recharge. So or the Flash, capable of breaking physics just because he have access to a speed force. So it's not realistic in the least. Of course you can play it like the movies, the recent movies like The Dark Knight or Man of Steel, but originally these are more like comic books character. They're more like legend or mythology or myth. They're They're like Hercules or Zeus. They're symbols, icons. So when you play a game in this mode, you're trying to emulate that. You're trying to be very in style, and not you're trying to not bother too much with real life physics and details. You actually focus on heroics and fantastic stuff. And then for the same game, you have Paragons. We're currently playing this game, this setting, and it's very much the opposite. The setting is about superheroes meeting a real world. In fact, the cover is really misleading, because this guy over here, Patriot, in the canonic setting, yeah, he exists and he's wearing this costume, but he's one of the few guys who wear this costume. In fact, this guy over here should wear a normal jeans and t-shirt and maybe some overcoat, and that would be more appropriate to illustrate what this is about. In fact, the word superhero is not even used in this book. People call them paragons or paranormals or freaks. It's really much a setting about realism. Cinematic, less cinematic, or more realistic. This is the difference for me. Of course, you have a broad spectrum of what it really means. Farther down this road, I would place games like Savage World or Mutant Epoch, games that are really gonzo and really crazy on the cinematic side. And on the other side of the spectrum, I would place games like GURPS 3rd Edition or Rollmaster, games that are more realistic and more deadly and more. You have to be careful. So in this game, when a bad guy pull out a guns and shoot at a superhero, he's expected to dodge or just take the damage and continue functioning, even if it's Batman, because he has some feats about dodging and stuff. But in this game, I've killed one player so far because the player wanted this character to die, but that's another subject. But I've nearly killed 2 characters in this game just with a drone equipped with a laser. So the thing was really deadly, and it's the same game. So we made some adjustment. We use some optional rules to make this game more realistic, but basically it's the same mechanic. You have the toughness save, you have hero points, but hero points in this game, since it's more cinematic, I have a tendency to give more hero points to help the player play superhero, big time superhero. In this game, I'm giving hero points to complicate their life more, to emulate reality. So if a character starts to fly like that, I may throw in a hero point, and his flight power is fickle, and you have trouble to fly, or maybe the airspace is really busy and you have to escape from you see these news helicopter, and so it's more about emulating real life. So a cinematic is really about, it's a style of gaming, really. A cinematic game master or players will tend to omit some rules in the book to make the style happening at the table, but it's really a style. You can play the same game and apply a lens in front of the mechanic cinematic lens. We could argue that cinematic and realistic can be found in the basic game mechanic within the game. We could argue that some games favor a more cinematic style. It's possible to play a realistic game with Savage World, for example, but the emergence of a cinematic style of play is more encouraged by this mechanic, with exploding dice and bennies and stunt, and the more you do crazy shit, the more the game rewards you with more bennies and more experience points. So this game leads to a cinematic style, and when you play GURPS 3rd edition, it's more of the opposite. So I hope it gives you an insight of what I think about these two approaches. Both are valid. When I started GMing, I was really much on this side, on the realistic side. Superheroes, we were playing Heroes Unlimited, so the game is really on the realistic side. Superheroes have power, yeah, but you should see the gun section in this book. It's like 10 pages of of guns and ammos. So a gun could kill a character easily. And games like Seven Seas or Spycraft or Mutants and Mastermind, Savage World, it's very much the opposite. You're encouraged to be more like in the movies, more free of physics and conventions of reality. So I hope it gives you an insight of what I think about this. I could talk about it for so long. So thanks for watching, and have a nice one. Bye.